Hi, everyone. I'm Linda McHenry, host of Taking the Mystery Out of Insurance podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, 2020, and you're watching a little episode that corresponds with the podcast episode that you can find on Apple, Google Play, my website, all kinds of different places. You want to know more about me, who I am, what I do, and more details about the podcast, visit my website at lindamchenry.com. There's a podcast page there where you can submit suggestions for future podcast topics, and you can also submit questions for the Q&A segment of the full-length episodes, which will begin airing on April 21st. So head on over to lindamchenry.com. Today I'm going to talk about saying goodbye to that penalty for not having health insurance. For those of you who sell health insurance, and those of you who have it, you're probably very familiar with the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate. Now, the ACA is more commonly known as Obamacare. So we hear all kinds of stuff about that, and some of it's true and some of it isn't. So let me set clear what happened in December when the court case was heard by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals with respect to that tax penalty. The Supreme Court did rule that the individual mandate is unconstitutional, and the tax penalty, which was considered the main reason why it was constitutional, really isn't. And the reason for that is the tax penalty was reduced to zero in 2017 for tax years beginning in 2019. So what this means is if you have a tax that's $0, it can't be billed, it can't be collected, it can't be enforced, then it isn't real. Sort of like the tree in the woods that falls down and no one hears it. So the Supreme Court agreed with the opponents of the ACA that the individual mandate is unconstitutional. Now that's at the federal level. However, there are 6 states that have individual mandates of their own, and they may still impose taxes on residents who didn't have insurance in 2019 that met requirements of state law. Those states are California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Vermont, and the District of Columbia. So for those of you selling or living in those states, you're going to want to check into that. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is when the appeal was heard in December, the Supreme Court did not agree with the plaintiffs that the individual mandate being unconstitutional meant that the entire ACA is unconstitutional. So it sent everything back down to the district court to see which provisions of the ACA could be severed from the individual mandate and which ones couldn't. So when that hits the Supreme Court and a decision is made, we're expecting that later this year or maybe early next year, I will be sharing all the details. So do follow the podcast, check on my blog, keep up with me, and I'll keep you informed. Now, in April, we're going to have some guests on the podcast, all kinds of new stuff. So please do check our trailers. Again, they'll be every Tuesday between now and April 21st, or you can head over to my website at lindamchenry.com. Again, the podcast page, the blog, all kinds of information there. You can actually learn about my book, Taking the Mystery Out of Business, which will be released in April on Amazon. You can get that in paperback or ebook. So hope to see you again. Stay tuned, check in, be safe. That's it for this week. Bye-bye.